What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. And we're coming to you from none other than Cannon Creek headquarters, my building, LOL, where the magic goes down in the fishing business here. But, however, today is our first ever Tackle Tip Tuesdays. It's something I've been planning for a while now for the channel. It's something I've been wanting to do, and well, I'm finally getting around to it. I'm going to try to be coming to you guys every Tuesday on the channel with a new video on different tips and tricks to hopefully help you land more fish and just all around just help you guys out. Any questions or comments, you guys can feel free to comment down in the comment selection, or if you got me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, hit me up. Be more glad to help you. And so on today's topic, I sat around about all day trying to figure out what do I want to talk about for my first ever Tackle Tip Tuesday video. I had different ideals, different lures, different tricks, you know. And the one thing that dawned on me is the one thing I love throwing the most. And a lot of y'all struggle with it, and a lot of y'all don't. But for me, I love throwing it. If you ever fish with me, 10 times out of 1, you know I got it tied on my rod. And that, guys, would be a jig. So, let's get to it. Today we're going to be talking jigs, jig fishing. A lot of people struggle with it, a lot of people don't. Me, at first, I did struggle with it, just trying to figure out, you know, I guess you could say how to use a jig, where to throw a jig, what type of jig to throw, you know, just the trailers to throw on it. Well, today's video, I'm going to try to break it down, you know, for you guys and try to make it a little easier on you and hopefully help you guys be able to gain more confidence in jig fishing if you ain't already got confidence in it, or just kind of give you a better idea on jig fishing and what to do. So, we're going to start out with casting jigs. Pretty much, a casting jig is your all-around purpose jig. Throw it in shallow water, throw it in deep water. You can throw it around cover, all kinds of good stuff. It's a great jig to start out with. Right here is your typical casting jig. As you can see, it's kind of got that little bend to it. You know, your skirt, your hooks. Let's see. Here's another casting jig still in the package by Guggen Squad. It is a 3/8 ounce casting jig, same shape as you can see right there. Like I said, a casting jig pretty much is your all-around basic jig. You can throw it on shallow flats, deep water, up around brush, sometimes in brush, just all around. It's all-purpose jig, honestly. That's the way I've always took it. It's all-around purpose jig. Another one that's real great to use, especially when you're around a lot of rock, or you're doing some offshore fishing on rock piles or road beds, anything other like rocks and stuff like that, would be, in my mind, would be a football jig. As you can see, it's honestly kind of in the shape of a football. You can see the head is a whole lot more bigger than what a casting jig would be. I'll hold it up for comparison. You can see the difference in the head sizes there. And honestly, a football jig is great for throwing around like big rock, because normally a casting jig you can throw it on it, but usually you might get hung up with it. Well, with that football head jig, the way it comes out, you know, in that football shape there, it helps it from getting down in between the cracks of the rocks, getting snagged up on you, and all that bad stuff that you don't want going on. I mean, they will get snagged up some, but your best bet when you're fishing around a lot of rock piles, even deep fishing, is a football jig, in my opinion. Honestly, the football jigs, they usually come with a bigger hook in it. What they call, I think, is like a low jack hook or something like that. It's all around more thicker and sturdier hook, because 10 times out of 1, like I said, you're going to be throwing it in deeper water, around rock, all kinds of stuff. So you want that hook not to give. You don't want that hook to bend out on you. That's the worst case scenario, is you hook, you know, the fish of a lifetime and your hook bends out on you or breaks. So we definitely don't want that happening to you. Another good, and they're also good especially around this type of year, in wintertime. When that cold water hits, football jigs, for some reason, I don't know why, but football jigs usually dominate in the colder months. Like, as soon as it starts getting cold, your water temperatures are down in, you know, the 40s, 30s, 50s, whatever. That's usually when I start tying on a football jig and start throwing it around. It can get you a lot of bites and land you a lot of nice fish. I've actually landed quite a few here lately just on a simple football jig. Also, another jig, especially this time of year in the colder months, or just any time the bass are on a very finicky bite, would be what they call a finesse jig. You can see it's not as big as the casting jig or the football jig. Ain't got that much skirt on it. I mean, it's got skirt, but it ain't as thick. And another thing about the finesse jig, the hook. The hook is a light wire hook. Especially in these colder months, you want to be able to feel that bite. Because sometimes the fish in these colder months are not as aggressive. Water temperature down, the fish's metabolism's down. You know, it ain't got the energy like they do in summertime. So usually when they bite, you know, in the wintertime, they got that real just pick bite. You know, with that light wire hook, it's going to help you be able to feel that fish a whole lot more better and be able to hook it a whole lot more sooner. And another thing you'll notice on a lot of these finesse jigs, they always got that little bit of skirt sticking up here. See how you got your normal skirt that's going down, then you got how this one sticks up. You can see here also on this football jig I made, well, I didn't make it, but the skirt I cut out. I cut it up like that. I'll also go in a video. I'll actually go in a video later on and show you guys how to actually turn a normal jig or the skirt into kind of like a finesse jig skirt. It's very simple, very easy to do. Because sometimes you can't really find, you know, a finesse jig that's got, you know, the skirt, you know, up like that if that's your style and what you like. So there's a simple way to honestly just cut your skirt and turn it into that. And then, and they don't always, like I said, come like that. A new jig that I've been throwing here lately, if I can get it here where I can show you guys, I actually got it paired up on one of my rods right now where I was using it on a fishing trip here recently. It's the new Berkeley Jigs they just came out with. This little guy right here, that's a finesse jig also. If you notice, the head of it kind of resembles, say, like a, kind of like a casting jig or a skipping jig in a way. But it's still a finesse jig because, as you can see, right here, it's still got that very light wire hook on it. That's also a very good finesse jig. Like I said, finesse jigs are really good to use this time of year, especially when the bite ain't that good. Or just any time of year when you're out there and, you know, the water conditions are horrible. You know, the fish are very pressured in the area you're in, and they just don't want to hit, say, a normal jig for you. Try tying on a finesse jig and see what happens for you. It could produce a good bite. Another great jig, especially in the warmer months, summertime, would be, I guess you could call it a punching jig. This right here is a I can't see the size on it anymore. It really don't matter. I don't know. Anyways, this right here is the Guggen Squad punching jig. Pretty much for punching grass, mats, pads. You can see that head's a whole lot bigger, a whole lot heavier. Once again, that hook a whole lot thicker. What they consider, I think, a low jack hook, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But these jigs, you can also, you know, use jigs for, like I said, punching grass, punching mats, just any of that real thick, deep cover where them bass tend to get up in the summertime to get away from the heat, or just to ambush prey as it comes by the bait. You know, you can flip that jig, punch that jig, whatever, up in them mats, and hopefully produce a good bite. Another great jig, especially, I guess you could say, starting, I would consider probably mid-spring to late fall, mid-fall, I'll say mid-fall, is a swim jig. A lot of y'all probably familiar with the swim jig. It resembles, you know, a normal jig, but usually a swim jig, however, most swim jigs in particular, always have them little eyes on it, you know, mimicking like a bait fish. The swim jigs are very good, you know, especially when the bass are chasing that bait and everything. Tie you on a swim jig, you should get bit. Swim jig is also very good to use around, say, laydowns, docks, skipping them up under dock pilings, skipping around laydowns, logs, anything like that. If there's fish up in it, then they're going to come out and probably hit it. Another good, like I was talking about, swim jig, as you can see. Like I said, these work great, what I consider probably, like I said, mid-spring to around late fall probably. That's usually about when I start tying on swim jigs, and that's about, usually when I take them off, is around about late fall. Then I'll switch over to, you know, like I was talking about, a football jig or a finesse jig. Then, however, you got, still in the packaging here, as you can see, this is an Insight Reflex skipping jig. like I was talking about on, say, your swim jigs there. A skipping jig is pretty much for when you're around a lot of docks. You want to get that right up under that dock, where that dark area where them bass tend to hang out. In them warmer months, get that good skipping jig there and just skip her right up in there. Try to get out of package here if I can for you guys and get a little more detail on how it's shaped. There we go. Here you guys go. The skipping jig, however, on the head, most of them are gonna have kind of like a flatter surface to it, kind of rounded off. You know, that way when you throw it, skip it through there, it's got that better glide to it, hits that water and just right across there. Same as usually with most swim jigs, they'll skip pretty decently. The same as a casting jig will. I mean, my bad. A skipping jig will. Like I said, skipping jigs are very good to use, especially in the summer months when you're around a lot of docks, stuff like that. Just skip it up under there and just work that jig and hopefully land you a bite. Let's see. Now, as far as like I guess you could say trailers would go, jig wise, there's, you know, it's really your preference, your brand, what style you like. I got a few packs laid out here, you know, that I tend to use. Say like on your football jigs for this time of year, your finesse jigs for this time of year, a real good plastic for a trailer would be I'm actually been using them here lately, trying them out. It's the new Missile Baits Mini D Chunks. Right here they are. And then let's get one out of the package here. I got one paired up on the jig, but I want to give you guys a better idea of how it actually looks. These are actually pretty decent little jig trailers. They're very compact. Here we go, guys. The Mini D Chunk by Missile Baits. A very nice little just compact trailer. I mean, that is perfect for them little small finesse jigs like that. You just pair that up on there, and I mean, look at that. It's just an all around just compact little profile. You know, especially like I was talking, when them bass are on that real finicky bite, that will help. You can even, like I said, on football jigs here, you can see I got it in a different color there. Right there is the Missile Baits Mini D Chunk. As you can see, it is paired there with a football jig. Also helps, you know. That's a really great trailer to use right there. Let's see, another trailer I was using this time last year was Strike King Rage Tails, the Rage Baby Menace. These right here are phenomenal. They work great pretty much year round on a jig. Not just these colder months, but I'm talking year round. They work great on a jig. We'll get one out. Kind of give you guys a insight on how they look here. Get on that, everybody. Here you guys go. Right here is your Baby Menace. You can see it's got that real, like I was talking about, real compact profile. Got them little tentacles, appendages, whatever you want to call them, that stick out there. They got movement, but not much movement. And usually when you go to a lot of that real compact profile, you don't want too much movement, but you want just enough movement, you know, for when you're popping that jig or dragging that jig. It's got that little bit of kick behind it, you know, to kind of flare up that, you know, that dust on the bottom there and really get them bass's attention, to really get them to strike at it. Another great one, I actually have it paired on that Berkeley Finesse Jig I showed you guys there. And this is honestly going probably old school right here as far as jig trailer goes. That's the Super Chunks by Zoom. A lot of y'all already know about the Super Chunks and know how great they work. Like I said, another great little small compact profile. Got them appendages there that kick out. These work great on jigs. And then when you get into them, like I guess you could say warmer months, hotter days like summer and everything, you know, a lot of y'all when you're fishing that deep, you know, offshore structure, throwing these football jigs or even a casting jig, whatnot, you kind of want to bulk your trailer up just a tad bit. Another great one would be the Reactions Innovations. Crap, what are these called? Forgive me, guys, I can't remember the names of them, but you can literally see it there. Just a big crawl right there. Like I said, depending on how big you want your presentation to look, you can leave it full size, or you can cut 2 to 3 inches off. Normally, even in the summertime, I'll usually cut probably about four notches down. I'll cut it off and pair it on a jig, because even at full size, I mean, you can see it's a big trailer. I mean, it hangs out there big. And that's great, like I said, for them really warm summer days. You got that real deep down on our jig going. Put your big bulky trailer on there and you're going to get bit. Now, as far as your swim jigs go, you know, it's mimicking more, now, like any jigs normally, your footballs, your castings, your skipping, finesse, they mimic kind of more, I guess you could say, more of a crawl presentation, a crawdad presentation. Now, your swim jig, however, is going to mimic more bait fish. Shad, bluegill, whatnot. This is a kind of like a shad detail, I guess you could say. I guess you could say this is more of like a bluegill presentation here. So instead of putting like a, you know, like a crawl trailer on it, you want to put more of a bait fish style trailer, which, you know, your preference can come in different varieties. Well, y'all know the Kitech, you know, these little 2.8s or 3.8s, 3.4s, whichever. Kitechs work great on jigs, especially swim jigs. I'll actually put one on this little jig here, that way I can kind of show you guys what a swim jig looks like with the trailer on it, as far as like a Kitech goes. For any of y'all that might not be throwing them yet, I'll probably put that on there awful, but there we go, guys. You can see it's got that little tail sticking out there, giving that nice kick through that water. You got that skirt just all around mimicking bait fish. Anytime they're chasing that bait, the swim jig, like I said, is perfect for that time. And like I said, ain't just pretty much any kind of like just small swim baits. You know, your easy shiners, just anything like that works great on swim jigs. Oh. Another thing about jigs I'd like to show you real quick. I guess, let's see. Let's take this one out of pack. Most jigs are going to come, you know, with a pretty standard skirt and weed guard. But, however, most of the time, you do not want to leave that skirt or that weed guard to its original length. You can see right here, this is fresh out of the pack, untouched. You can see how long, if I can get it all pulled down there, how long the skirt is, how long that weed guard comes out over that hook. And I'll actually make a video here soon on how to actually trim a jig up to size. How to trim the skirt up good, how to trim the weed guard up, you know, all of that. I hardly ever throw a jig with the skirt and the weed guard as it comes out of the factory. I always trim my skirts up and my weed guards. Some people don't really mess with the weed guards that much. I do, however. I mean, it's totally up to you. You know, you can go out and buy you 2 or 3 jigs, cut, you know, a couple of them, cut the weed guards down to size, leave them like they are, you know, and just find what works for you. But, yeah, like I was saying, jigs are all around, they're bass catching baits. They really are. A lot of people struggle with it, a lot of people don't. Like I said, I did, but I'm slowly starting to catch on to it. Like I said, football jigs are great around that offshore structure, rock, anything. Just throw them out there. And I'll actually do videos on how to actually work each and every jig, how to skip the jig, how to, you know, do a swim jig, how to pop a jig, drag a jig. A lot of yins all, I know, probably know it, but for yins that don't, I'd like to be able to show it to. Help y'all out, and hopefully help y'all land more fish. So, but I hope this video has been very informative to a lot of y'all. And like I said, please feel free to leave comments, hit me up on social media. You know, anything you want to learn, I can try my best to show you guys. And hopefully you'll like this new segment I'm bringing to the channel. I'm going to try to do it every Tuesdays. It's going to be called Tackle Tip Tuesdays. And, you know, we're going to do it from here in the building, here on the lake, you know, just all around. So, hope y'all like this, and hope y'all get out there and catch you some bass and have a good time. Tight lines, everybody.